Adam, welcome to Millionaire University. So delighted to have you here today. Can't wait to hear all about you, your story, your entrepreneurial journey, and all of the amazing things you have to share with our audience. So thanks for joining me.
Kirsten, thanks for having me. I love sharing my background and talking to other entrepreneurs, and this is an incredible format with a successful podcast, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we love to give context. You have an extensive background. It's not all in building hundreds of businesses by any means, but you've definitely been around the block a few times. So give us kind of the story that brought you to where you are right now, as many little details as you think are relevant to what you're doing.
Well, thank you for that. People think, oh, I'll do this and I'll have a job for life. Every 7 years, supposedly, people change jobs, and I like stimulating things, creating things, adding value to people's lives, and I've always been an entrepreneur. When I was a young kid in high school, I used to fill out a big garbage can of sodas and potato chips I bought at the Wise factory for wholesale and sell them and make $100 a day on a busy Saturday afternoon at Little League games, and sold cable TV door to door, and really have a background in entrepreneurship. I'm not the kind of guy that wants a paycheck and work from 9 to 5. And that was the beginning of it. And from there, I love finance. I love the movie Trading Places, and I saw where it was filmed with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. If you had not seen it, it's a nice rainy day afternoon comedy. And I was a commodity derivatives trader for over 22 years, yelling and screaming in a trading pit. And I became a conduit for business ideas because I love learning about how things operate. I've invested in dozens of startups. I've been a board advisor, board member. I bought into a commercial real estate firm. I owned a Michelin-starred restaurant, which was a great idea, but not a great business. And I recently started a really cool business called Trellus that helps the little guy and gal compete against Amazon. They're overwhelmed by the tech and the logistics of it. And we made a simple, easy model that we launched in the New York metro area where we expand nationally quickly. So you could buy things from stores, small businesses, and have them picked up curbside, delivered same day, or shipped nationally. And that's a culmination of all my experience. And it is the most exciting thing I've ever been part of.
Cool. So I love that I can already tell within that you found kind of a gap. And I know we don't have to get political at all, but I know that there's a lot of people shifting away from wanting to give the monopoly. I think it's so funny that I'm saying monopoly. You have a monopoly background right now.
That's funny.
Oh, which is super fun.
We have a gift box subscription company, and this is the office we rented. It was here already. It's funny.
That's so funny. So yeah, there's a lot of people who want to still support small businesses, smaller businesses. There's so many opportunities with the internet, but it really is hard to compete with the powers that be that are able to ship things so quickly. And so I love that you found a gap in that. How long have you guys been in that business? I know you mentioned before we started recording, you're like at the very beginning point, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well, what you've done to be building that business up.
Well, it's interesting. Everybody says they want to shop local, but the reality is they want the convenience of shopping local, and they
Mm-hmm.
want things that are affordable. And Walmart went in and clear cut every small business in America, small back towns in America, and they went into the larger areas. Amazon beat up on Walmart, and they do together probably half the internet traffic in the country. And we
Mm-hmm.
created a model to help small businesses work together, like almost like 1,000 guppies fighting against a whale, to beat them at their own game by offering specialty goods that they won't be on those platforms, skewing more mid-high end products, not like a screw or a phone charger. And the small businesses are so desperate for it. And the idea came from two things. I was commuting to Manhattan. I live on Long Island for over 20 years, and it was 3 hours round trip. And my wife would call me on the way home and say, "Can you get a bottle of wine, get your kids soccer cleats? Oh, I need you to go pick up a dress for your daughter's dance. I need you to, pick up pet food." And why isn't there an app that allows you to just click a button or tap a keyboard and have those things at your house quickly? You already know the stores. You want to support them. Why can't it come to my house easily? And that was the genesis of the idea. And then for 2 miserable years, I was head of economic development at the town of Hempstead, which is the largest town in America, the only W-2 paying job I had in the last 35 years. And every politician is like, shop local, but there's no easy way to do it. So the business
Mm-hmm.
was started by me in this position as head of economic development, going to Hofstra University, Stony Brook University, speaking with their computer departments, asking if they could partner with us. and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And I said, you know what? Let me see if I could figure out how to do it. I left government. I went door to door for 6 months, spoke to hundreds of merchants, and they had two pain points. And one was, we can't afford to deliver. A full-time driver, car, and insurance is almost $80,000 a year, and we can't compete on the internet. Can you help us? And my two partners, Brian Berkery, who's got a big marketing background, and J.R. Jensen, who's the CTO, worked together. And Brian had a bad experience with the town, and I took him out to lunch to say, I'm sorry. And he was like, what are you working on? And I said, I'm trying to figure out how to help small businesses. And he's like, well, what are your problems? And I don't know how to do the tech. I go, let me bring in JR. And we started a business about 3.5 years ago, just signing up small businesses to do their logistics, which is not a great business because it's a commodity-based business, but it was a real need that they had. Not just one delivery, but we do routes with tech that only charges the incremental distance. So farms, meal kits, pharmacies, a lot of bakeries use us, and it works. But they all said, please drive us orders and don't rip us off, because by the time you're done with all the fees on Amazon or DoorDash, we just can't make money. So we decided to have our inventory be their inventory. We don't have warehouses. We don't do national advertising. We launched an app about a month ago with 75 or 80 merchants. We have about 25,000 SKUs. Our desktop version literally goes live Friday, which I don't know when this will air, but that's May 2nd, I believe, 2025. And we have partnerships across the country who want to partner with us in California, Texas, Arizona, Massachusetts, Vermont. The need is massive. And when we get scale, there'll be no reason to shop anywhere else if you truly want to support a small business.
That's so cool. So I just want to wrap my mind around this a little bit, where, you have restaurants who have tapped into this, and they don't necessarily have to have their own delivery service. They're just leveraging other places like DoorDash and all of those types of things. So you're kind of fulfilling the same service for other types of business models to be able to have that quick delivery to your door within a day or two without having to provide that service for in and of themselves. So you're kind of being the middleman and helping them. And it also helps the dream, right, of shopping small and being able to have you as the consumer who is home, not wanting to do 5 different errands, have that all come to one place. So that's super brilliant. I love the business model in and of itself. I want to talk more about that too. But I even want to talk a little bit about something you mentioned that you did early on that a lot of people, I think, are afraid to do in person or online, and that is go door to door. And so when I say online, I'm talking like getting on LinkedIn, actually making connections. I have somebody very dear to me that is very afraid of this, not even afraid to talk to people, but feels like I have to have the answer before I have the conversation. And I'm like, you have to have the conversation to find the answer. So as you were going door to door, did you already have in the back of your mind any kind of concept of what you knew you could sell, or was it just a curiosity venture? And how did you, you've been in pretty gritty professions before, but what would you recommend, and what do you feel like you did to have the tenacity to do that? And what is the benefit? Like, sell us on that, because I know it's so important.
Well, first of all, you deal with emotional intelligence, which I love.
Yeah.
My wife happens to be a therapist, so I'm very aware of it. And she's a big proponent of it. She thinks it's important to be self-actualized and be the most you can be. So kudos to you for figuring that out and helping people do that. But I didn't grow up wealthy. If I wanted to get the new Coleco, whatever it was back in the day, or Atari before they came out to be Sega, whatever else, I had to go buy it. And the only way to do it was to speak to people and figure it out. I worked at McDonald's as my first job, and I worked an 8-hour shift, exhausted. I got a $20 paycheck, and I'm like, I'm done. I want to be able to sell, and I want to be able to do things that I believe in and love, and that helps. So the part about selling, which is a bit overwhelming for people because they don't like rejection, it's scary. People might be mean to you. When cable TV first came out, I'm 60. I know I look 59, but I'm 60. When cable TV first came out, I sold cable TV door to door. I made $1,200 a week in 1984, which is a lot of money. And I was selling something I absolutely believed in. Cable TV, you can get 30 channels at once and watch the Knick game and movies for $1, $1 a day. You can't afford not to have. I really believed in what I was selling. So if you're not really in love with your product or believe that what you're selling the customer is important, you'll never do a good job. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
helping them, the whole part of sales is not oh, help me, I need to make my quota. No one cares about your quota. They want to buy something from you that will help them feed their families. So when you're selling, you really have to create a relationship and you have to be genuine about it. And I love people. I love learning about things. I love fixing problems. You've got to fix the problem they have of how are they going to help their business? How are you going to create value for them? And when you
Mm-hmm.
go in there with the mindset like, I'm helping you and I have something you need, whatever it may be, and you truly believe that, if they tell you no or reject you, it's really their loss. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to believe it. You can't sell auto warranty extensions that are overpriced and believe that this is amazing. I could never do that. But the cable TV thing was a layup. It was easy to do because I think people needed it. And Trellis is a way for people to grow their small businesses and fight back against the 30% of all sales being online and now having a voice and a stake in the game and empowering them. And I love doing it. And I love helping businesses. I want to live in a vibrant, small downtown that has really cool, unique stores, not chain stores, which is a soulless existence. So selling is an emotional thing. I guess emotional intelligence dovetails to what you're doing. If you believe in it and believe in yourself, it should sell itself. You've got to create
Mm-hmm.
the value, and you can never make it about yourself. You have to tell who you're selling that this will help you, and here's how, and keep it nice
Mm-hmm.
and tight, and don't, and when they ask you a question, let them speak. Every question they ask means they're engaged and it's time. The more they speak in time, meaning like if you have a 2-minute conversation versus a 20-minute conversation, that 20-minute conversation is probably going to turn into a sale because they're interested. Answer their questions, but don't oversell. Just figure out what their pain points are, and always try and solve them. If you can't solve them, say, I'll get back to you with the answer. And it's just being genuine and caring.
Yeah. So, and I know that in and of itself, even when you have the thing done that you're selling, when you're able to find that product market fit, when you're talking to somebody, it can be really challenging. And I think sales is something that a lot of entrepreneurs think that they might not be good at, but I agree with you when there's alignment there, when you love what it is that you're selling, when you believe in it, and it really is a service to people. It's not, you don't even need all the sales training, right? Like, I'm careful in saying that. I know that the strategy is always helpful, but it's almost the icing on top. It's the later stuff. You have to have the conviction first. You have to have the belief first. Um, so with you, like, you obviously were kind of in a transition point. You were working in the government. So was this stuff that you were doing? I'm trying to remember the timeline as you were going door to door while you were still working, and so you had that kind of that breathing room where you could take the time to figure out what the product was, or like what do you recommend people doing if they don't even have a thing to sell yet? Like if they are doing what you were doing with doing the research.
Well, you have to fill a need. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
passionate about it. But in my job, I was head of economic development for the town of Hempstead, was to help businesses and help create economic
Mm-hmm.
growth. And when you have conversations and just talk to people, like, what are you worried about? What do you hope for? How do you grow your business? You see what the needs are. If you try and create a need or solve a problem without knowing that there's a need, you're going to fail. But if you get
Mm-hmm.
the ability to figure out and you get the same answers over and over again, I wish there was a way for me to get more customers to come to my store, or, at least help them shop at my store. I don't know how to do it. I'm not tech savvy. I'm stuck. I have an AOL still, and I don't know, the latest technology. You've got to, you've got to speak to people if you don't have whatever you want to create, and you have a mindset, like maybe it's in sports, maybe it's in fashion, maybe it's in, restaurant business. It's from having conversations and having a recurring theme, and finding what the answer is to that recurring theme or problem, and finding a solution is what a business is built around.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for you, even on your journey, it was like this was already happening. You were already having these conversations, and then, hey, wait a minute, there's a gap here, and I can fill that gap. So as you guys have come together, partnered in this, what's been like one of the biggest hurdles to bring something together and even facilitate something that doesn't exist? I think we always think that's the dream, right? Create something that isn't already in existence, but it brings its own set of challenges because you're having to iterate something brand new. So what have you guys had to learn throughout developing this?
There's two parts to the business that are the hardest. The first one is getting your first 100 customers. We do
Mm-hmm.
logistics for over 600 businesses. We have got almost 100 businesses on our marketplace. Hope to have 1,000 by this time next year. But getting those first customers who become your champions and really tell everybody how great your business is. And you need to go over and above and provide them with the best service possible to have them fall in love with you and be your champion. That's the secret sauce where they tell their friends, oh, you got to get this thing. You got to work with this company because they're amazing. They care. We made sure customer service was a big deal and that everybody felt they had a connection to the company. That's the biggest thing when you're starting. And the second, and maybe even the first biggest thing is capital. This is a capital intensive business. I mean, we're trying to launch across the country. We have 20 full-time employees, 100 drivers in our network. We're doing TV commercials and we have a lot of capital costs, including coding. It is hard right now to raise money. Everybody wants to be in AI or the hottest new thing. It used to be logistics. And before that, if you remember back in 2000, it was .com. You know, everybody rides the popular thing, but the reality is getting the capital that you need to make sure that your business can keep its doors open to get to profitability is exceptionally difficult. And be prepared to eat a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches if you don't have the money because you got to save every single penny.
Yeah. Yep. I know, and that's something that can hold people back because it just feels like this insurmountable hill that you have to climb. And so you might go back to the drawing board. And what do you recommend in that? Aside from the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, if you have the vision so clear and you know the thing that you are selling is so, so good, and you just have that time in between, you want to maintain that entrepreneurial spirit. I know a lot of times people feel like they're being a sellout if they take a job or do something in the meantime. But for you, have you ever experienced that where it's like, do you function better when your back is against the wall and you just have to figure this out, but also, or have you given yourself the breathing room to make money other ways while you're building it? Maybe not
Uh,
even in this, but in other things.
well, people are motivated by different things. One of the things that motivates me, I don't know if it's the healthiest thing, is the fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
I had an experience early on in college that changed my life. I was young. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought that every guy wanted to be my pal, every girl wanted to date me, every kid wanted to play with me. I ran for my fraternity presidency, and I got one vote, and it was my own. And I said to my roommate, why didn't you vote for me? He goes, you didn't even try. And I had
Mm.
this complete inflated, non-realistic view of the world as a 20-year-old does, that everything's amazing. I'm going to be this successful guy. And the reality is you have to work hard. You have to earn it. And no one's giving you anything, nothing. And that was the biggest wake-up call for me that if I would have taken the time to go meet the 40 or 50 members of my fraternity, say, hey, I love what we're doing. Here's what my vision is. Maybe I wouldn't have won, but I wouldn't have gotten my own vote. My roommate would have voted
Mm-hmm.
for me. So what motivates me is the fear of having that experience again, and never leaving anything unturned. Trying like water getting through a crack in a dam, trying every avenue to see what will succeed. Not doing the same thing that doesn't succeed over and over again, but trying new things to get to where you need to go. And when you exhaust all your alternatives, you'll know you've given your all. So for me, that's
Mm-hmm.
my motivating factor. It came from really a humbling experience that I learned from. And I realized that no, every guy doesn't want to be my buddy. Every girl doesn't like me, and every kid doesn't want to play with me. I've got to go out there and prove I'm a good person and earn that.
Yeah. So what does that look like for you, especially now as you're developing this business? Obviously, you've learned that a little before this, so you don't have that innate sense of everybody just wants this. What has you done to really facilitate growing this brand, this company specifically in that way?
So as CEO of Trellus, and by the way, the website is bytrellis with a us.com. It's your chief cook and bottle washer. and you've got to do everything. But what
Mm-hmm.
I've done is when I speak to merchants, try and solve their problems. I'm not telling them what they need. I'm trying to figure out what they need from the conversation and find solutions. And everybody can have a different solution.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can't hire enough people to do their deliveries. Some people can't keep stock. Some people need capital, whatever it may be. But finding those pain points and addressing them sincerely, with passion. I believe that the product sells itself, but it's getting over the hurdle of people changing. People don't want to change, and that's their biggest issue. So having the conversation where emotionally they get to the point where they are open to new things is what I try and figure out. And when you're done selling, no matter who you are, always ask for 2 referrals. Hey, who else
Mm.
could use Trellis? Who else do you think? Because people want people to feel like they're doing what they're doing. So if I buy a new car, let's say I buy a Chevy Camaro, then you're going to tell everybody how great the car is because you want them to buy it too, because you want them to confirm your decision. That's when you're selling. If they buy your widget, you want them to become your advocate. And that's part of the process, figuring out those pain points.
That's an important thing to point out. I think even in any industry, even as I started out as a podcaster, I didn't really learn any of this stuff. It was just kind of, okay, well, this seems like an obvious thing. I'll ask every guest who's willing to come on if they have 3 friends. And I know it kind of sounds like the whole MLM structure, but there's a reason that works in that structure too, right? You bring 3 friends and they bring 3 friends. But the referrals can be so, so powerful to growing that business. And I think what you touched on, the emotional trigger for that, we want to be validated in our choice. And so one of the ways that we do that is saying, I did this. If you do this, then it tells me that my decision was actually really, really good. And it makes me feel good. So yeah, really, really powerful and important that you're taking the time to take it a step further than just, okay, I closed a sale, I closed a customer. You talked about how the hardest part in the beginning is gaining those first 100 customers. So as you guys have gotten into this, what are you structuring first? Like, where are you focusing your time? Obviously sales, and you mentioned you have to be chief cook and bottle washer. But when you're trying to stay in that CEO role, what have you guys found to be the most important roles to bring on after yourselves?
So I have 2 great partners, Brian, who's has got a great marketing background, and Jared does the tech front and back end of our business. And we work really well together. All decisions need a 2/3 vote. So if one of us disagrees, we could still move forward with something. It's worked really well. But finding people you trust, who you can rely on, and letting them do their jobs is a big deal. You can't do everything. You're just gonna burn out and have a freaking breakdown if you're a perfectionist, which is not really good if you want to be an entrepreneur because it's messy.
Mm-hmm.
But motivating people to do their jobs well, getting them engaged, making it a fun place to work. I try and we like to laugh a lot. That's the best thing for us, and that's what's worked for us. I think that answers the
Mm-hmm.
question you were going after.
Yeah. Well, and even structurally, like if you're starting a business this big, where I'm assuming the reach is eventually to be national, like you're wanting
Yep.
to service businesses, not just locally. What is like the path and the vision forward to how that's going to come to be? Like, where do you put the most energy? Is it in, obviously we have the referral system, we want expansion, but to really make that rapid and expand quickly to a national market, what are you guys putting your focus on in terms of like more salespeople, marketing on social media? What does that look like?
So our business is kind of unique. We're going after this huge open space, which is kind of like Airbnb meets eBay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
all your businesses are in an area. eBay sells everything, and you're trying to connect that. So when we go to new cities, like for me, it's my job to create relationships, and I enjoy meeting people. People laugh at me and they say like I'm like a local Kevin Bacon. We're reading the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. But when I go to a new city, and I travel a lot because when you're raising capital, you go where the money is. I've probably been to a dozen cities in the last 3 months. Whenever I go to a new area, I look in LinkedIn. Who do I know who lives in that area? Who am I trying to meet? Can you make a warm intro so it's not like a cold sale? Can you meet with the Chamber of Commerce there? Can you meet with the political business entity that may be? And you try and engage people who will buy into what you're doing and help be your champion. And it's about relationships. Sales is about relationship building. Expanding your business is about filling a need and helping people. And it's important if you're going to be successful. Reputation is everything. It's, you take a lifetime to build a reputation, and you could screw it up in one day. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a net giver, is, giving time, love, energy, money. For me, it's the path to happiness. There are people who are tit for tat, meaning you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. They're transactional, which is okay. And then there are people who just take, and they suck the life out of you. Try and avoid those people. But
Mm.
when you give to people and you help them, it opens doors for you. And that's my process. It's worked really well in New York Metro. It's worked well in other cities that I've gone to, like in wine country, in Arizona, in Massachusetts, in New York itself. You're always extolling the virtues of what you're doing and caring about other people, and that's how you build a business.
Yeah. Well, okay. And I love that you mentioned this earlier when we were talking about sales. It can never be about, I have my sales quota, I have my thing that I need to meet. This is one of the most challenging things I've personally experienced where you feel the difference, right? I know when I've had a really great sales conversation because it doesn't feel like that. There's no need on my part. And I'm genuinely excited to see how this can serve or benefit them. And then I've also had the seasons of life where it's like, man, I have to take my goals more seriously. And you have these numbers and you have these things that you're thinking about. And I would love to hear your take on this, on how do you set those projections and how do you set those benchmarks and goals? And then almost like not forget them, but step into the full service without, because we're motivated, we're excited by selling. And I think salespeople in general, they want to make money, they want to have those wins. But what is your recommendation on that? You've talked a lot that's been so great about the value and just genuine service. But for people who are doing all the things, right? Like you're the CEO, you see the whole big picture. How do you step outside of that into just that moment?
I think what you're asking is, how am I making decisions to sell?
Yeah, just having the goal and having the number that you need in order for the business to do certain things, and almost detaching from that so that's not what you're thinking about as you're having those sales conversations.
So we're all goal driven. We all want to, run a faster pace. And if we run a 3 mile race, we want to get our sales goals met. You've got to create structure. Every
Mm-hmm.
day, I'm going to spend 3 hours meeting 20 merchants. So at the end of the week, I would have spent 15 hours meeting
Mm.
100 merchants. And it's a numbers game. And when you go to meet a merchant and you have a bad conversation and you could almost cut the air with a knife because there's tension, you don't stay around. Hey, thanks for your time. Nice to meet you. I have a 3-second rule. You know the 5-second rule where you drop food on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Mine's different. It's a 3-second rule. When you look to buy something within 3 seconds if you're going to buy it. So if it's still in your mind, if you're scrolling through the internet to buy a widget, if you stop on it for 3 seconds or think about it for 3 seconds, then you probably want to buy it. So when
Mm.
I'm selling somebody and I know I've got their attention right away and their focus, and they're not just, body language is a big thing. For me, that helps a lot with my decision-making process and their process, whether I continue investing time or I move on. And that helps me sell. Goal-driven, making sure I knock a certain amount of doors every day, rain or shine. No one's selling your product except you, and you've got to just put the time in, and then the follow-up. Sales is not one and done, and if they don't say yes in the moment, you don't forget about them. Sometimes it takes up to 7 connections. It could be a text, an email, a phone call. It could be seeing you on social media. It could be an in-store visit until they decide that what they're going to do. And I have a quick story about somebody who is a big investor that I'm having a call with later today. And he said no to me several times, but he didn't say, no, get out of here. He's like, oh, I'm
Mm.
not doing it now, but this is a great idea. I met him in San Francisco on a podcast kind of like this. He was a judge in a startup business competition. Followed up. We had a conversation. Love what you're doing. It's just not for me. I'm not investing now. Follow up 3 months later. Hey, I want to be in your neck of the woods in a month. Can I come see you? Yeah, but I'm not investing. Saw him at the event, had a conversation with him, found out after the conversation what his concerns were. He's like, I love what you're doing. I want in. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to say yes initially because he had his reservations. I don't know what clicked in his head, but it was the sincere follow-up, stinging communication, and building those relationships that are a big deal. Every 3 months, I go through my phone and I go, who haven't I not spoken to and just connected with? And I just shoot a
Mm.
quick text. If Joe likes the Mets, hey, great Mets game, thinking of you. Just keeping that conversation going, and that opens so many doors. So it's really putting the time in and knowing when a no is a no, but knowing when a no might be a maybe, and keep going till no is no.
Yeah. Good advice. I think what you just hit on too is the thing that people need to understand is it's not setting goals on the outcome, it's setting goals on your output, right? That's the difference. So we can never control what other people are going to do. To an extent, we can increase our ability to sell, we can get a little bit better with our pitch and things like that. But overall, and I've seen this even in digital marketing and the things that I do with coaching, I can control how many people I have conversations with on a day-to-day basis. And I think a lot of people, when they're stepping into entrepreneurship, think it's the opposite. They think it's, oh, well, my goal is to have 3 people this week that join or sell 10 things. And like you said, I think it's just a numbers game. If eventually you give enough data to the big picture and you say, well, when I was reaching out to 10 people a day, on average, I was closing 5 sales a week. So, okay, this is obviously what I need to do. And on average, that's probably what I can expect. So if I need 10 sales a week, I'm gonna have to double that or whatever in the beginning. And then you find ways to multiply that and find leverage. But I think that's exactly what you just summarized for us is there's so much value in just what can I produce today? What can I do for output? How can I spend my energy? Not how can I close 10 sales, right? That's like the ultimate shift.
It's funny. This is a great conversation because you get emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
People have a voice in their head. I stink. I'm not good at this. If you don't believe in yourself, the person you're trying to sell is certainly not going to believe in you. And your body language, open hands versus, crossing yourself, standing to the side versus facing forward, projecting an aura of confidence and feeling good helps to sell. And what was
Mm-hmm.
most impactful for me was I heard this recently. The difference between the number 1 ranked tennis player in the world and number 25 isn't skill. It's when they miss a shot in their head, like, I'm going to get the next one, not, that was terrible. I can't believe I missed it. That subtle message that you tell yourself, like, these people need me. They didn't say, no, I'll get them next time, is so much better than,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sell 3 things this week. I can't believe I'm doing this. You lost. If you don't go in with
Mm-hmm.
like a positive frame of mind, then you've already, failed.
Yeah. Well, and going to the emotional side of things, like the resiliency of being able to stand in your own. I mean, I've had so many, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you haven't had more no's than yeses, right? Like that's just part of the game. And I think when you're starting out and your ego is so tied to that success and tied to those yeses or tied to those no's, for better or for worse, right? Like both are not great. You have to hit a point when you're recognizing my vision has to be bigger than this. The thing that I'm shooting for, the business I'm building, it doesn't matter if people say yes or no, but I have to keep showing up and I have to keep offering the thing that I do. And like you said, it's having that confidence and having the bigger picture in mind as you're showing up and doing the business, building the business. The difference now in how I feel when I do marketing versus how I might have done it before I had more of the emotional intelligence component is there was so much fear and there was so much wrapped up in this, so much worry all the time. And it was an obsession over the numbers. It was an obsession over, oh my gosh, am I doing the right strategy? All these like technical things instead of just saying, this is going to succeed no matter what, right? Like I love the phrase, success is inevitable because it really is. And it's so centered in that emotional and that mindset shift of seeing this will come to pass. It's just a matter of when, and it's a matter of how hard am I willing to work and how much am I willing to show up and deal with the no's and deal with the yeses.
If you're a people pleaser, you're going to have a hard time selling.
Oh yeah.
But think about the messaging. If someone says no to you and you say to yourself, oh, I'm such a failure. I can't believe I can't sell this person. Or, oh, they're missing out. This is something they definitely need. I'll get them back when Joe next door and Sally next door sign up and they'll feel more comfortable. Like messaging to yourself that you're not the problem. You're giving them a solution and don't taking no personally. It's hard. Rejection is
Mm-hmm.
hard. I mean, I remember the
Yeah.
first time I ever got rejected asking a girl at 9th grade. I was devastated. Like, I'm never going to get a girlfriend. This is terrible.
Mm.
You've got to believe that you're a good person and that you care and that you're solving a problem. And it's their issue, not yours. If you can
Mm-hmm.
somehow get that. And still, when I go into stores, I'm a little nervous. I'm not, there's a difference between confidence and cockiness. Cockiness, nobody wants to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence, meaning you believe in what you're doing and you care, that exudes out of my every pore, and people buy you as much as they buy the product. They want to be part
Mm-hmm.
of a positive experience. So you're selling yourself as much as your product.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to people who feel like they're being annoying? Because I know that that kind of goes hand in hand with the people pleaser. A lot of what I do is help people through this validation loop that we can get into, and it presents itself in many ways. For you, you had this delusional confidence growing up, like everybody wants to be my friend, everybody wants to date
Delusional.
me, right? I think delusional confidence is so good in some ways, and then it can be hard when you get knocked down a peg, you have the rejection, and then you start to question everything about your value. So for you, where does the rooted confidence come in for you? Like, what do you feel like you've done to practice over and over again, or how have you kind of landed on that? Any books you've read? Just, is it a matter of showing up again and again? Many people would get knocked down a few times and never show up again. So even for you, anything that you recommend or you can see in your own journey?
That's a good question. I'm a voracious reader.
Mm-hmm.
Books, blogs, podcasts when I'm in the car. Uh, and the more you learn, the more ammo you have to help you on your journey. Um, when you're 22, 23 years old and just starting out, you don't know much.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you don't know. And you have to allow yourself to make mistakes. When I was trading commodities, if I didn't make a big mistake every day, I wasn't taking the risk necessary. So for me, it's not like, walking a tightrope on the top of a tall building, but making a mistake is getting out of your comfort zone, doing things you ordinarily wouldn't do, trying something you've never tried before, and learning from that experience and growing from it and building relationships and adding value to other people's lives. A lifetime of that makes people want to work with you, mentoring other people, being in service. I do a lot of charitable work with nonprofits in a couple different areas. One of them is disaster relief, and
Mm.
going into a community after they've been hit by a hurricane and just showing up and helping them without expecting anything other than just doing a good deed. It that's the mentality you have to have when you're doing your job. You're here to help them. Your end goal might be financial, but if you're not filling a need and not helping them, you're never going to get the sale. But letting that little voice in your head have fear is healthy, but not letting it override your actions and fighting through that and feeling like you've given it your best every day is all you could ask. And
Mm-hmm.
you will succeed if you just keep pushing through, because we all fail. We all make mistakes. We've all been humiliated or told by somebody we're not smart enough or strong enough or good enough. And when people tell you those things, it's because they're afraid of failing and don't want to see you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And avoid those people, by the way. But
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who cheer you on and want what's best for you. And that helps in all aspects of your life.
Yeah. And if you can't avoid those people, have context to understand that's what's happening, right? I think don't take it personal. Just have a little compassion and say, man, if that's what they're saying and that's how they live life, that's a them issue. That's not a me issue. So we're just going to step right over here and stay in the positivity zone. Oh, I love that. I think
Wha-
you hit on something. Go ahead.
One other quick thing I wanted to follow up. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my
No,
wife's a
you're good.
therapist and you are a therapist too, from how you help with emotional intelligence, is I make believe I have this bubble around me. And if there's someone who's just throwing nonsense my way, it just harmlessly hits off the bubble and doesn't bother me. And I try not to
Mm-hmm.
internalize it. And that's like a coping technique that helps me get through the negativity. But I just wanted to share that other little thing that you need to find your device that doesn't let that fear overwhelm you and the negativity overwhelm you, that just lets it harmlessly fall by its side. But I
Mm-hmm.
apologize. I want to hear what your next thought was there.
No, not at all. I love that you touched on when you're young, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think over time, as you build up that knowledge base, it really does start to alter. And that's what builds the confidence, right? And so I remember starting my very first online business, even like my first business, if I really look back. And yes, there's a piece of delusional confidence where you're like, this is going to be so easy. And oh my gosh, I'm going to make so much money, right? We all have that, kind of has to spark the dream in some way. And then you have like the ebbs and the flows. And I think I remember starting the online world, starting my podcast, all of those things, and just thinking like, Oh my gosh, I wish I could just skip to the part where I'm all knowing and I know I'm going to gain all this wisdom. I wish I just wanted to learn as fast as I could. I remember being a sponge, soaking it all in. And then hitting points where it was like, hey, it's now time to take action on this. You can't just sit and gather information. And I think what I have learned and seen in the people that I coach and that I work with is all of us have a picture of who we are, what we're capable of, and that picture gets to evolve and we start to build that strength and that courage coming from, oh my gosh, now I have more wisdom, I have more experience. So those things that we might call failures, those things we call mistakes, they really are the very building blocks that build that confidence. And I think that's why people who don't take risks, they stay in the safe zone, never actually become more confident, right? Like they think that they're going to be, because now they've avoided discomfort. But I think what people need to hear is you have to lean into that. That is literally the foundation. And what I've learned, I mean, I've got a whole movement that's about having unshakable confidence. And that's what I found it to be rooted in, is the learning, the making the messy mistakes, putting yourself out there, being rejected. And what are you going to do with that after? You can no longer build the identity on other people's opinions of you or whether they like you or say yes to you. So I love that you mentioned that as you're younger. It's just something that does need time. I look at some of these younger generation people though, and I'm like, how are you so strong already? Where does this just inherent confidence come from? I don't know. Maybe time will show that it's the same exact cycle and it just looks really good on the surface. But yeah, I think that's a really incredible piece we can't leave out, that it does come from doing the hard stuff.
Somebody who doesn't have a dose of fear or self-doubt, you know what we call them? A sociopath. They literally, they're not living in reality. With social media, everybody's got a jet plane or a billionaire, and it's not real. And my wife calls it fake book. They should be the other half of the people who are crying at home at night or struggling. But if you look back at your life when you're 90, 95 years old, hopefully you live a nice long life, and you look back and you say to yourself, I've had some failures, but I gave it my best shot. You'll be content versus, oh, I could have done this, or I wish I did that. Being an entrepreneur is leading a meaningful life and putting yourself out there and taking a chance. You've done, I think I saw 347 podcasts or some number like that. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I don't even keep track.
The reality is, my bet, I mean, clearly you're polished, you're great at conversation, you're a good listener. I have to believe that your first podcast is not as good as your 347th podcast. And the only way you learned to be better is by putting yourself out there, making some mistakes. I'm sure in the first 20 or so podcasts, you're like, God, that was terrible. I wish I did this. And I don't think you have those thoughts anymore. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but I think from the way the ebb and flow of the conversation is going is you realize that experience creates confidence.
It absolutely does. And clarity, right? Like the action, the experience that brings clarity, confidence. And yeah, I'm not a sociopath. So I'm not perfect. And I doubt, I don't want to fall in that category. I have a little fear. Every time you want to be on your A game, it doesn't matter. I used to perform and sing, and it doesn't matter how well you know the show or how many times you've done it. There has to be a little element of fear. It just drives the adrenaline and it makes you want to show up and do your very best work. And that is very, very different than showing up and not being willing to be teachable and feeling like you have all the answers. So yeah, good distinction, but you're right. It does come from tons and tons of practice. And I think that's why I love this show and I love the foundation of what we're trying to do and provide is hopefully if people hear this again and again and they hear it enough, they will start to believe and take action. I started as a listener of an iteration of this show. I started as a student of how to become a millionaire. And now I'm on the other side of this teaching things that over the last decade I have learned. And that did not come from just listening to the podcast. It came from taking action on things, being explorative, being curious, and doing the hard stuff. So, and you're doing the same exact thing. You're a little older than I am. And I can tell that the confidence is only going to grow. So I love it. I love bringing people like you on who have that experience, who have the grit and the tenacity, and they've been doing this long enough that they understand. That's really what it takes. We could talk strategy. We could talk how to have conversation in a sales conversation all day long. And those are great, valuable conversations too. But I think we've talked a lot today about the root of what makes you really effective and the core principles you need as a person to be a successful CEO.
Yeah, drive is a big thing, but it's got to come from within. No one's going to get up in the morning and get you out into those stores and speak to your merchants or sell your widget. And we spoke about failure and learning from that. We spoke about emotional growth and realizing that you're here to help other people, not them for them to help you. There's a lot to running a business, but if you just do good things and give out more than you get back, things magically will happen in a positive
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, I agree with that 110%. Okay, where's the best place for people to go? Maybe they're an entrepreneur, they have a small business. We hope we have not just people in the theoretical phase, but people actually out there taking action, building these brands, building these businesses. Where can they go to find more about what you guys are doing specifically, and then even to connect with you?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. So take a look on our website or our app. The app is Trellus Local Delivered, Trellus. It's only available now, New York Metro, but we are adding Shippo to do third party. So hopefully by Christmas, even early fall, you could buy from a small business anywhere in the country. And the
Hmm.
website is bytrellis.com, Trellus.com. No one's doing it. And we allow small businesses to grow. No cost to be on our platform. We drive you a sale. We take 10%. It's really effective. If you want to reach out to me directly, I love speaking to people. Adam at bytrellis.com, Trellus. I just mentioned that I was on this great podcast. I'll respond. I'll set up time to talk. I'll make intros if I can. I love connecting people, helping them get internships or into jobs where I know people need things. I'm a conduit, and my goal is to help whoever comes my way improve themselves.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been so fun to chat with you and share your insights as an entrepreneur. I know this has been a valuable conversation for me, and I know it will be so much so for our listeners. So I really appreciate you.
Kirsten, this is great. I love what you're doing. I'm going to count me as a regular listener going forward, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.